So today on Pediatrics To Go, we are talking about acute conjunctivitis, popularly known as Apollo. So Dr. Sanusi is going to be enlightening us on everything we need to know about Apollo, or rather acute conjunctivitis. So up to you, Dr. Sanusi.
Thank you, Francisca. So acute appendicitis. Acute conjunctivitis is actually very common, and a lot of children, they develop it in an instant. Mom and dad will say, oh, they took an afternoon nap, and by the time they woke up, there was all this mucus in their eyes, and they couldn't even open their eyes because there's so much mucus. And it is very common, especially in children who are in preschool or nursery, because there's a lot of touchy-feely, and there's just a lot of close contact with other children who most likely have it. Now, Apollo, which is viral conjunctivitis, is popularly called Apollo here in Nigeria, but viral conjunctivitis is caused by a virus called adenovirus. And that thing is so contagious. When you see in a whole class of 30 people and there's 15 people that have conjunctivitis, usually it's viral. We see a lot of eye and ear infections that go together. And when there's an ear infection, usually there's a history of a cold. So if a child has had a cold and they've been screaming through the night, they can't sleep, and then they end up having pink eye, it's called otitis conjunctivitis syndrome. So basically when we examine them, they have an eye infection and an ear infection, and we usually call it otitis conjunctivitis syndrome. Now those children, because of the ear infection and the eye infection, they usually have a bacterial infection, and they need to be both on antibiotic, eye drops, and oral antibiotics, because we need to clear up the ear infection, and the bacteria that causes that is Haemophilus influenza non-typable. So when we see that, then the treatment is different. You have to add an oral antibiotic. But if it's just simple Apollo or viral conjunctivitis, we give antibiotics. And what the antibiotic does, remember that when children have conjunctivitis, sometimes it's itchy, so they're scratching. When you scratch, you put bacteria into your eyes. So the viral infection now ends up having a secondary bacterial infection. And then by the time you you treat with antibiotics, you're rinsing out the infection from the eyes, and that takes care of both the viral, and it doesn't touch the viruses, but it rinses out the infection, but it kills any bacterial part that could be in there. So I tell parents, mom and dad, use the eye drops as directed. Make sure it's very contagious, so make sure you clean their eyes. Don't use a rag. A lot of parents use washcloth to clean their eyes.
Really?
Yes, it's better to use the cotton balls, the disposable cotton balls. Use water and then just clean the eyes. If it's both eyes, clean one eye, throw away the cotton ball, and then get another cotton ball, clean, throw it away. Because if you use a rag and you keep using a rag, the bugs stay on the rag and reinfect the child. And then when you're putting the drops in, usually when you see a doctor, they'll give you the best eye drops that they think is best for your child. When you're putting the drops in, you want to just lower the conjunctiva and put the drops in there. Make sure the tip of the dropper doesn't touch the eye, because if it does, then that bottle gets contaminated with the infection.
This is crazy.
And you just want to keep a little distance, put the eye drops in the eye. Usually we recommend, once you start using the antibiotic, you're contagious for at least 24 hours after starting the antibiotic. So we usually recommend, if the child is starting the antibiotic on Sunday, they can't go to school on Monday because they're still contagious. So after they've been on the antibiotic eye drops for 24 hours, then they can go back to school because they're not contagious anymore.
So the whole myth about looking into people's eyes with conjunctivitis and contracting it is a lie. Oh,
Well, remember,
close your eyes. I don't want to look into your eyes. Are you serious?
yes, you don't get it from looking. You get it from the bugs actually entering your eye.
Wow.
You can't get it from just looking at somebody.
We've been living so much lives all our lives.
Well-
They tell you wear shades and everything so that if they don't look directly into your eyes, I'll contract Apollo.
Is that why people wear shades? I thought they wore it because they become light
Aside that,
sensitive.
people would not want to look into their eyes so they don't contract it. That's what we've always believed every
A
time.
lot of people wear sunglasses just because their eyes get sensitive to light. And also people don't want you to know that they have Apollo, so they wear it and...
Yeah, also the stigma of like
How did you get it?
Exactly, and then we don't want to contract it for you, so they tell you to close your eyes or move away from them. So the stigma.
So hand washing is a good way to prevent it. We tell parents, if you're going to do clean the eyes, wash your hands, but preferably wear gloves and disposable gloves. So by the time the parents are cleaning and putting the eye drops in, so that they don't end up getting it, And remember, a lot of children that have pink eye, they're rubbing their eyes, they're touching doors, touching the surfaces and leaving the virus or the bacteria on those surfaces. And that's how you touch those surfaces, you touch the door, and then you end up saying, oh, I wonder, and you rub your eye and you just injected or infected yourself with the infection, with the virus or bacteria. So constant hand washing is important. And when people have Apollo, you want to make sure that they start antibiotics as soon as possible so they don't spread it to the next person.
Now,
especially especially children. Just always place.
So dear Nigerians, you cannot contract Apollo by looking into someone who has Apollo or conjunctivitis rather. So I hope you've learned something today. So until next time, catch you up. Bye.
Bye.